the Record with Michael Landsberg, brought to you by the Keg Steakhouse and Bar.
Off the record, where you know the rules of the game, but do these people know the rules of the game? Nothing, the guests say, will ever be held against him, because after all it is, Doc Hendrix, what it is? What is it?
It's off the record.
Yeah, you got it. Doc Hendrix knows that because he's been here before. These people haven't. Hunter Hearst Helmsley and Chyna, members of Degeneration X. And you guys are in Toronto tomorrow night, right?
That's right, Sky Dome.
Ready to talk some sports?
Whenever you are.
Okay. You got a bit of an attitude, don't you?
No.
No, not much at all. And Doc Hendrix, last time you were here, you impressed people with tons of sports knowledge all across the board. But what's the deal with this?
Ran into Kane the other night. Bad meeting for me.
Yeah, I'll bet. How's he?
Probably fine, unless he strained his back bouncing me around.
So the story of the day that we have to talk about in this country is hockey. A lot of people desperately hoping that Team Canada would win the Olympic gold. What's the deal with that?
It's a big loser sign.
And who's that directed to? To me? Why am I a loser?
You're from Canada.
Right.
You guys are losers.
I apologize because the American hockey team did. Oh, no, I'm sorry. You guys were knocked out a little bit earlier.
Let me see. Our be-all, end-all of our country's existence is not the game of hockey.
Hockey, right? A, was that?
Hockey. You guys, the hockey is the greatest, eh? And you guys, what are you going to get? Like maybe get a bronze? What's that like, right?
Yeah, that's like, you know, getting to take your sister home.
Yeah. Don't make us any offers here, Doc. So you're saying not only are we one-dimensional in that we like hockey, but that we all say A as well?
Oh, yeah. You'll say it.
How many provinces? How many provinces are there?
Who knows? It's a big barren.
No American knows. But we know how many states. What's the capital of Canada?
Because we're good. We're great. You guys all want to be like us. You guys live in this barren wasteland. You know why they check you coming into Canada so hard? Because everybody's going to smuggle stuff in. Nobody wants to take anything out of Canada. They just let you walk in from Canada. They don't even care.
See, what we need clearly here is Bret Hart, right? Because he would defend the honor of his country. And I want to talk to you seriously about Bret Hart. And we've heard his side of the story. Next week we'll hear from Vince McMahon and his side of the story. You guys are very close friends with Shawn Michaels. What was his role in all of that? Now Bret says that Shawn knew what was going on. Did he know what was going down?
I mean, I can't tell you what was in Shawn Michaels' head because I'm not Shawn Michaels. But do I think that Shawn Michaels knew what was going on? No. We all. I mean, if he did. I saw no indication of it. I mean, I knew what we were going in there to do. That's what I was planning on doing, and it seemed as much surprise to him when it happened as it did to Bret Hart, as it did to everybody else that was watching it. I mean, you know,
True or false? Shawn Michaels was crying in the locker room afterwards. Bret Hart said he was crying. He was afraid that Bret would kick his butt.
True, but I don't think it was afraid because Bret would kick his butt because, no, and this is of no offense to Bret, but the first time those two got in a fight, it was a pinch fight. I mean, it was who was going to pinch the other harder or who was going to pull his hair out. I mean, I got the story from Davey who was there, and I mean, Bret couldn't have thrown a weaker punch. So, I mean, I don't think he was crying because he was afraid Bret was going to beat him up. I think he was crying because of the implications of what had just happened. You know, that's when you don't know something like that is going to go down, and then it does, and then you're sitting in the back and nobody knows what's going on. That's a pretty heavy thing in our business. That's heavy espionage stuff, you know.
There's some real dislike, right, between those two, Michaels and Bret Hart. I mean, it's difficult for the viewer and the fan to understand because one of the things you do is you sell an act. But sometimes it's not an act, right? And that was the case there. And it's not an act. You guys don't like Bret Hart much, right?
I've never had a problem with Bret as far as personality-wise goes. I've gotten along with Bret fine outside of the ring and outside of our business. I've never had a problem with him. The problems that I did have with Bret, if you're going to ask me if I agree with what happened at the Molson Center, 1,000%. I back Vince on that 1,000% because what he was going to do was wrong. What Bret Hart was going to do was wrong. His Canadian legend status wouldn't allow him to do what was right for a company and a business that did what was right to him for
What was he going to do that you're referring to?
Years.
You're saying what he was going to do was wrong. What was it?
He would not step away from the WWF. and put Shawn Michaels and put the WWF over and put them into the spot they needed to be in. What he wanted to do was walk out on TV and hand over the belt and say, I'm going to WCW. You can't do that. You can't do that.
Doc, you're impartial somewhat. I mean, you work for WWF, but where do you stand?
I think the whole situation kind of reminded me of the Bad Company song "Good Lovin' Gone Bad." It's really, you know, bad when Vince and Bret had such a relationship, and because of how the sport has really escalated into the entertainment field, and money and I guess ethics are, money's in, ethics are out. But bottom line is that if you were Vince McMahon, and I think the more time separates the event from when it happened, you see why he did. Supposedly, Bret was going to show up the next night on Nitro with the belt. Whether Bret Hart would have ever done that or not, I don't know. We'll never know. But that would have been very detrimental to the World Wrestling Federation, and that's not the way Bret Hart was raised in this traditional business.
Well, there's a lot we can... I'm sorry,
to me, just so I can give one more point, is when I got here, I heard all the stories about the problems that Bret had with Hulk, with Hogan. When Hogan left, that Hogan wouldn't do business with Bret, and this was before Hogan left, obviously, that Hogan wouldn't do business with Bret. Bret wasn't on his level, and Hulk was this big star, and Bret was nothing, and Bret hated him for that. Because he wouldn't do business. When it was his time to pass the torch, he wouldn't pass the torch. Well, when it was Bret's time to pass the torch, he wouldn't pass the torch either. So shame on him too.
He said he was going to do it in Ottawa a couple of days later.
But I mean, they asked him to do it then, and he wouldn't. And whether he would have done it or not, what we're hearing is that he wouldn't have.
Well, we'll hear from Vince McMahon later next week, Tuesday
Does it really matter
and Wednesday.
now?
Yeah,
no, it doesn't really.
Yeah.
But we got a lot of other stuff to talk about, including some real rivalries in sport, and I want to get the behind-the-scenes stuff on Luna and Sonny and their battle. We'll talk about that one off the record.